Lily's hands were trembling as she looked up at her father, her voice a mixture of fear and desperation. "Please, Daddy, pretend you're dead." Daniel Cole froze. His heart stopped for a split second as his daughter, his bright, innocent 9-year-old daughter, stared up at him with wide, tear-filled eyes. He had never seen her like this before. Her little body shook, her fists clenched tightly, and her face, usually so full of curiosity and joy, was now twisted in pure terror. "Sweetheart, what do you mean?" he asked, his voice cracking with worry. His mind raced, searching for any logical explanation for her strange words. Lily's lips quivered. She took a deep breath, her small shoulders rising and falling with the weight of what she was about to say. "You don't understand, Daddy. If you don't pretend, something bad is going to happen to you. Please. I heard them talking. You need to pretend you're dead." She took a step closer, gripping his hand as if her life depended on it. "I can't lose you. I can't, please." The air in the room felt thick, as if the world outside had stopped. Daniel could feel his pulse pounding in his throat. His mind couldn't catch up with what was happening. He pulled his daughter into his arms, the smell of her hair filling his senses. "Lily, what's going on? Who talked to you like this?" "I can't say," she whispered. "But I overheard them. You're in danger, Daddy, and I can't let you get hurt." Daniel swallowed hard, his heart thudding painfully in his chest. His daughter had always been a bright, sensitive soul, but he had never imagined she'd be involved in something like this. His mind spun with questions. What was she talking about? Why would anyone want to hurt him? What could be so serious that she was asking him to pretend he was dead? Before he could respond, a sharp, cold laugh echoed through the house, cutting through the air like a knife. It was a sound that chilled Daniel to his core. He had heard it before, but never from this close. Lily's eyes widened in terror. She clung to him even tighter. "Please, Daddy, I don't want you to die, but if you don't do this, they will kill you. They will." Daniel's breath caught. He had to act quickly. But what could he do? He was a father. The sound of a door creaking open upstairs snapped him back to reality. The footsteps were slow, deliberate. His heart raced as he looked down at his daughter, her small face pale and filled with fear. She wasn't lying. This was real. "Lily," he said softly, his voice shaking. "I don't know what's going on, but I promise you, I'm not going anywhere. No one's going to hurt me." But Lily wasn't listening. She stared up at him, her eyes wide with raw, desperate fear. "You have to do it, Daddy. You have to. Please." Then, the door upstairs slammed shut, and everything went still. Daniel's mind raced. His daughter wasn't just scared, she was terrified for his life. This wasn't a game. Something was wrong. Deeply wrong. And suddenly, it hit him, the sound of footsteps. The slow, deliberate steps of someone who didn't belong. He pulled Lily into the kitchen, hiding behind the door as they both listened in silence. There was no sound from upstairs anymore, but that feeling, the feeling of being watched, it was undeniable. His pulse quickened, and he felt a cold sweat prick his skin. "Lily, listen to me," he whispered urgently. "I need to know exactly what you overheard. Who was it?" Lily's eyes filled with tears. I don't know who they were, Daddy, but they said you were gonna die. They said it's all set up. That tonight, you won't come home." Daniel's stomach turned. He squeezed her hand harder. The words rang in his head. It's all set up. Who would want to hurt him? Why? And who was watching them? Lily tugged at his sleeve. "Please, you have to listen. Please, please pretend you're dead." The air between them was heavy, filled with the weight of a terrible, unspoken truth. For a moment, Daniel didn't know what to say, what to do. He had no idea who was behind this, but the terror in his daughter's eyes was enough to make him question everything. He knew, deep down, something bad was coming, and the only way to stop it might be to give in. "I'll do it," he said, his voice shaking. "But we need to figure out what's really going on first. I need you to tell me everything. Can you do that?" Lily nodded, her face determined now. She had already made up her mind. "I'll tell you everything, Daddy. Just please, don't let them hurt you." As the tension in the room hung thick, Daniel took a deep breath. The stakes had never been higher. They were in this together. Whatever was happening, they would face it side by side. And then, just as the first drop of rain splattered against the window, something moved upstairs. Something that made the hair on the back of Daniel's neck stand on end. The sound of footsteps again, this time, closer. Closer than before. His heart stopped. Lily squeezed his hand, and for the first time in a long while, Daniel realized just how serious this was. Something was about to happen that would change everything. The moment they'd both been dreading was about to unfold. Daniel held his breath, his heart thumping in his chest. The footsteps from upstairs grew louder. His mind raced, trying to make sense of it all. Who was it? Why did they seem so close? The house felt eerily quiet despite the noise, like the calm before a storm. Lily's small hand, still gripping his, trembled slightly, as if she too could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on them both. "Stay here," Daniel whispered, his voice barely audible. "Whatever happens, don't come out of this room. Understand?" Lily nodded quickly, her wide eyes reflecting a mix of fear and determination. "I won't let you down, Daddy," she whispered back, her voice small but strong. Daniel stepped away, his mind working furiously. If this was a trap, if someone was planning to hurt him, he needed to be smart. But he also needed to make sure Lily stayed safe. He crept toward the stairs, taking each step as quietly as possible. Every creak of the wood beneath his feet felt like an alarm bell ringing in his ears, but he pushed forward. The house seemed unnaturally still, as if it were holding its breath along with him. At the top of the stairs, he stopped. The footsteps had stopped too. Silence. He carefully peered around the corner, his body pressed flat against the wall. His eyes scanned the hallway. There was no one in sight. Just the quiet hum of the house, the distant sound of raindrops hitting the windows, and the faintest smell of something burning. His heart skipped a beat. That wasn't right. He followed the scent, inching toward the kitchen. As he got closer, the smell grew stronger. Something was definitely burning. He rounded the corner of the kitchen doorway and froze. A figure was standing by the stove, their back to him, stirring something in a pot. The smell of burning food wafted through the air. But that wasn't what made Daniel's blood run cold. It was the person. Vanessa. His wife. Or rather, the woman who had once been his wife. She was supposed to be at work. She was supposed to be nowhere near this house. He had made sure of that. But there she was, casually cooking dinner as if nothing was wrong, her back turned to him, completely unaware that he had just walked into the room. For a moment, Daniel stood there in shock, his mind refusing to process what was happening. This was impossible. How could she be here? And then it hit him like a freight train. Lily had been right. She had known. Somehow, she had known exactly what was happening. Vanessa turned around, her eyes narrowing as she saw him standing there. A flicker of surprise passed over her face, but it quickly faded into something else. Something colder. Something dangerous. Well, Vanessa said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. The ghost has returned. Daniel felt a cold chill run down his spine. He knew this woman. He had married her. But what stood before him now was not the woman he had fallen in love with. This was someone else entirely. A stranger wearing a mask of false charm. "What are you doing here?" Daniel's voice was hoarse, his anger rising. He took a step forward, his fists clenched at his sides. Vanessa smiled, but it wasn't a friendly smile. It was a smile full of malice, full of secrets. "Oh, I think you know exactly why I'm here. But don't worry, Daniel. I'm not here to ruin your little family reunion. Not yet, anyway." Lily's voice echoed from the hallway, breaking the tension like glass shattering. "Daddy," she called softly, her voice carrying a note of fear. Vanessa's eyes flicked toward the sound, and in that instant, Daniel knew what she was planning. She had known. She had been waiting for him to come back to her, to fall into her trap. "I told you to stay in your room," Daniel said sharply, turning toward the hallway. But Vanessa was quicker. Before he could stop her, she was already moving toward Lily's room, a malicious gleam in her eyes. "Oh, don't worry," she said, her voice laced with a sickening sweetness. "I'll go check on her. After all, she's my responsibility now." Daniel didn't think. He reacted. He rushed toward her, grabbing her arm and pulling her back roughly. "You stay away from my daughter," he hissed through clenched teeth. For a moment, Vanessa's face twisted with rage, but then it softened into something more sinister. "You're too late," Daniel, you think you've won? You think you can just waltz back in and fix everything? She wrenched her arm free from his grasp, stepping back with a sly smile. The damage is already done. You were never supposed to come back. And now, you've put your daughter in danger. The sound of the footsteps grew louder, closer. Who's there? Daniel called out, his voice now filled with urgency. But no one answered. Instead, the door opened wider, revealing nothing but darkness. And then it happened. A shadowy figure stepped into the doorway, and Daniel froze. He couldn't believe his eyes. It was Mark, Vanessa's accomplice. Mark Delaney, standing there in the doorway, grinning like he had just won the lottery. "Oh, this is rich," Mark said, his voice dripping with amusement. "I was wondering when this little charade would fall apart." Daniel's world spun. He had been played. Both of them had played him. Daniel's mind raced as he tried to make sense of what was happening. He had trusted Mark, believed him to be a friend. He had no idea that Mark was part of Vanessa's plan, helping her set him up for everything. The betrayal hit him like a physical blow. "What's going on, Mark?" Daniel finally managed to croak, his voice shaking with disbelief. Mark just chuckled, the sound of it like nails on a chalkboard. "What's going on, Daniel?" he repeated, taking a step closer. "I think the real question is, what didn't go on? You were always so blind, my friend. Vanessa and I. We had this whole thing planned from the start." Daniel felt a pit open up in his stomach. You were in on this from the beginning? All of it?" "From the very beginning," Mark confirmed, his smile widening. "Vanessa was smart. She knew how to play you. And all the while, I was just here, helping her pull the strings." Daniel turned to look at Vanessa, his mind struggling to keep up with the enormity of the situation. "How could you?" he whispered, the words barely leaving his mouth. "How could you do this to me? To Lily?" Vanessa's cold, calculating smile never wavered. She stepped forward, her eyes locking onto his. "You're weak, Daniel," she said, her voice dripping with contempt. "You were always weak. Too trusting. Too naive. I did this for us. For our future. And I was so close to getting everything I wanted." Lily's voice broke through the tension, small and trembling. "What are you talking about?" she asked, her eyes wide with confusion and fear as she peeked around the corner. "Daddy, what's going on?" Daniel turned sharply, his heart lurching at the sight of his daughter standing there, her small figure framed by the doorway. She had seen it all. Everything. Mark's betrayal, Vanessa's lies. And now the truth was hanging in the air like a thick, suffocating fog. "Lily, no," Daniel started, but it was too late. Lily had already taken a step into the room, her gaze flickering from Daniel to Vanessa, to Mark, and back again. "What's happening, Daddy? Who are they?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The innocence in her eyes cut straight through him. Daniel's heart twisted. He didn't want to burden his daughter with the ugliness of the truth, but there was no going back now. She already knew. "Lily," he began, his voice soft but firm. "These people, they've been lying to us. They tried to hurt us. But it's over now. They won't hurt us anymore." Lily's eyes flickered to Mark, then back to Vanessa, the realization slowly creeping in. "Are they the bad guys?" she asked, her voice so calm it sent a shiver down Daniel's spine. Daniel's throat tightened. "Yes, baby. They are." The room was thick with tension, the air so heavy it felt suffocating. Daniel knew what he had to do. The truth needed to come out. No more hiding. No more pretending. He couldn't let his daughter grow up with the shadow of these lies hanging over her. "Vanessa," Daniel said slowly, his voice steady now despite the whirlwind of emotions raging inside him. "You and Mark are going to pay for what you've done. You can't hide anymore." Vanessa's smile faded, replaced by a look of anger. "You think the police will do anything?" she hissed. "You think they have enough on me? You're wrong. You're nothing but a dead man walking." Mark, standing beside her, laughed cruelly. "They don't have enough evidence, Daniel. They never did. The plan worked. You should have stayed dead." Daniel stepped forward, his body rigid with anger. "The plan worked because of Lily. She was the one who uncovered your lies. She saved me." Lily's small hand reached up to grab his. He could feel the weight of her trust in his grip, and it gave him the strength to continue. "You're both going to prison for what you've done," Daniel said again, more forcefully this time. "The police have everything they need. They've already got Mark. And they'll have you too." Vanessa's expression faltered for a moment, but she quickly recovered. "You think they'll believe you?" "Believe her?" she sneered, pointing to Lily. Before Daniel could respond, there was a loud knock on the door. The sound froze everyone in place. Daniel's heart skipped a beat. It wasn't a knock he recognized. No one else was supposed to be here. He had made sure everything was secured, but the sudden intrusion was enough to set his nerves on edge. Mark and Vanessa exchanged a look, their expressions darkening. "It's them," Mark muttered. "Get ready," Vanessa hissed, her eyes narrowing. "This isn't over." Daniel's heart raced. He couldn't let them slip away. He couldn't lose this chance. "Lily," he whispered, crouching down in front of her. "Stay close. Don't move." The door burst open and everything changed in an instant.